Hi, Don Thornton here. Let's talk about vacant houses. Okay. I've been doing real estate investing for 18 years, and I can tell you that, vacant houses at various times in my career have been the best way for me to find distressed sellers, short sales, especially. But it's like the seasons. Sometimes it's not like in spring is not the best time to go out and pick ripe fruit from a tree, right? Because spring is a time for blossoming and they're not ready yet. Same thing with vacant houses. It really depends on what time of how the economy is doing before you think about going out and doing what the people call driving for dollars. So let me give you an example. Okay, when I first got started in real estate investing, this was 2002 was when I really first started dipping my toe in the water. I didn't actually form my company until 2003. It took me about a year before I got my feet wet and, was able to start getting houses at a pretty good clip. Because, I mean, there's always a learning curve, guys. I mean, very rarely do you jump in and, um, and have success right away. Sometimes you got to pay your dues. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying, generally speaking, it takes time to learn a new skill. And there's a lot of things you got to do as an investor. You got to wear a lot of hats to be successful because you can't afford to pay people usually unless you got a nice nest egg. But anyway, I didn't, of course. So when I first got started in Central Florida, the market was pretty hot. It was really hot. So for 2002, 3, 4, and up until the last quarter of 2005, I mean, there was so much appreciation, and the thing about short sales, and again, because remember, I was working on short sales from the very beginning. A lot of people avoid them like the plague to begin with, but the ones that do come around to it, it's because they're doing something else. They're doing wholesaling or whatever. Okay, I only wanted short sales when I first got started. That was a little bit. I was a little bit different when it comes to that investing strategy because the market was so hot and because the appreciation was still going at a nice clip. There weren't that many upside down houses, and so people who got into trouble were usually able to go ahead and sell it because they had some equity. So that's why, I would say maybe 20% of the houses that I found and were in my pipeline in the first, well, especially 2004 and 5. I had a lot of equity deals, a ton of equity deals, maybe 20% short sales. But then what happened then is that in Florida we started feeling the first effects of the crash in the second quarter, or excuse me, the last quarter of 2005. And in 2006, you had so many houses up for sale. Everybody was trying to sell their house, and of course, what happened is that there was so much supply, there wasn't as much demand, and so people had to start lowering their prices, and that caused just a slow lowering of pricing or values until 2008 hit. Then it really went down. So just to give you an example, anecdotal. I bought a house the worst time, the absolute worst time. I paid $426,000 for it, and by February, I think I bought it like in September, and in February the next year in 2006, it wasn't even worth whatever. I mean, eventually it sold for in a short sale for three. Actually, no, I lost that foreclosure auction. That's right, I lost that one. It's eventually sold. I mean, they went back to the bank and then they sold it for like, I don't know, 280 or something like that. And it's funny because even after all of the recovery, it still never got back up to 426. So I would have been in jail upside down forever. So I don't really mind taking that foreclosure on my record. I recovered from it. It took me a while, but I recovered from it. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent here. Vacant houses. So when the economy started going down, when the mortgage crisis hit, people were walking away from houses right and left. So I would say from 2006 until even as late as 2015, my I'd say 80, 85, 90% of the properties that I got into my pipeline were driving for vacants. I mean, literally, that's all I did almost every day. I would get in my car and drive 4 or 5 hours and look for vacant houses. Um, they started drying up more and more. And I think the last time I did anything was 2016. I think the first part of 2016, and I noticed that it just wasn't. You weren't getting as much bang for your buck. And remember, that's a lot of mileage on your car. It's a lot of gas money. So I made a decision that I was going to stop doing that. So if you're watching this right now, this video, and it's September 8th, 2020, I would say that it is not a good strategy right now, at least in my area in Florida. What you're finding is, I'll give you an example. Okay. I had a year ago this fall, I had a guy that wanted to be trained as an investor, but all he wanted to do was quote unquote drive for dollars. So I said, okay, fine, go ahead. I trained him how to do it, what to look for, and so forth. And he went out and got lists, and there were vacant houses. But what was he finding? He was finding bank owned properties, or he was finding investor owned properties where they were just between tenants. So, one tenant moved out, although it hadn't moved in yet. It was still up for, looking for a new renter. And so, it was vacant. And this guy was getting me vacant houses, but there was no value to them because the homeowner, either the bank owned it or the homeowner wasn't in trouble. He was an investor. So my point is that right now, I don't think it's a viable strategy. There are other strategies that are better. However, in my opinion, when the foreclosure moratorium is ever lifted and people are under pressure to go out there and uh, you know sell their houses because they have to, and they can no longer just sit back and just wait for the foreclosures. I mean, not paying their mortgage payment and just riding it out. When that eventually hits, and it's going to, it's just a matter of time, then then you're going to start seeing more people walking away from houses, and then it'll become a very viable strategy. And maybe the next 3 or 4 years, and it'll be the same way, where there's going to be a lot more vacant houses. But right now, in September of 2020, I don't think it's a viable strategy. Therefore, when I teach my students, I tell them avoid vacant houses as a strategy right now, in my opinion. So, check back in a year, and we'll see. Maybe even by the summer. But right now, no, I don't think so. I hope you got value from this. Thanks a lot.